Welcome everyone to the first official Phoenix Evolution post-race interview. It has been a little over 24 hours since the checkered flag at the iRacing 24 Hours of Spa. We're sitting down with our drivers, Jeremiah, Bailey, Paul, Kieran, Will, and David, to talk honestly about the race. Say hello, everyone.
What's up, boys? I'm Jeremiah.
Hello, I'm Billy.
Hi there, this is Paul.
All's good. I'm Kieran.
Hello, I'm Will.
Hello, I'm David.
All right. Well, those are our drivers. So let's get into it then. Now let's go into the first stint. Now, Jeremiah, you started the first stint to get the race started. How was it going into the first stint?
Yeah, so off of qualifying, right? Really couldn't really get the pace out of the car that I wanted, right? Not the end of the world. Starting from P38 out of 60 cars in the midfield is never really fun, right? It always adds a bit more pressure there because now you've got a good chunk of cars behind you and in front of you. So you definitely have to be a lot more careful through the first few laps. But off of the green flag, after pretty much every car on track forgot that the green flag was dropping on the secondary straight because of the endurance layout of Spa. Everything was pretty clean. First few laps, got some good early overtakes. Pretty clean. First 5-10 laps was really solid. Um, Towards the end of the stint, couple small things. Definitely lost a little bit of pace, but nothing minor or nothing major, rather. Um, the really only big thing that stint was when we came in for the fuel stop for fuel and tires. We or I did miss the pit box because for whatever reason my in-game spotter was off, and with all the cars in pit lane, we didn't see where our pit man was. So we ended up coming out of the pits, losing that minute, and having to go around the track with less than a lap of fuel, which was that alone was a little bit stressful. But got back in, found our box, wasn't the end of the world, and yeah. Other than that, first stint was pretty solid.
All right. So that sounds like it became a good stint near the end. So now, Will, you took over during the second stint. How did that start off, and how do you think it went during?
Um, it a little bit hit and miss on the colds. We were practicing in the wets all week prior, due to thinking we was gonna have a wet race. So a bit sketchy. There's a couple of puddles left over from the 30-minute practice, qualified, and Jeremiah's first stint. So trying to keep it away from the curbs, more middle of the track. Got a little bit loose on the rear through the first handful of laps, probably. By the time the end of the stint came, I felt a lot more comfortable. Knew where I was putting the car, knew what the car was. It was practically talking to me, type of thing. It was very nice to drive by the end of the stint. Um, couldn't really ask for anything else throughout second stint, to be fair. Just trying to get the car through the first couple of hours to for the middle part of the race, which was also interesting. But the first couple went really well.
Okay, so it was hard at first, but you ended up being able to control it better once you had gotten used to driving with it.
Yes, correct. It was just at first it was just like build up of like pre-game nerves type of thing, pre-race nerves. So a little bit shaky, and that was probably adding to it. But then yeah, after the first handful of laps, it's just everything came back to normal and felt alive again.
Okay, and let's go into the third stint. David, you took over the third stint. How did that feel? Did it feel like how Jeremiah and Will had, or was it different for you?
It was pretty different. I feel like it was a little bit more calm since it wasn't like the first couple stint chaos. So there wasn't as many like wrecks. It was much cleaner and pretty much it.
So it was a smooth transition from second stint to third stint.
Yep.
Okay. All right. All right. Let's see. Kieran, you took over fourth and fifth stint. So it got easier when David took over. How did it go for you?
Um, well, seeing as it was my first major event, um, and still being somewhat new to iRacing, the nerves were definitely up. That showed during my first stint where I tried to move over safely and missed my driving line by like a millimeter or two and ended up having an incident. Unfortunately, that led to 5 minutes of repair time. We did get quite lucky there considering how big the incident was. Um, but then after that, once I'd got used to the faster traffic and just brought myself back down, it went pretty smooth for the most part. I had one incident which I had to take avoiding accident, avoiding action. Apologies. Um, and then after that, just one off track. So yeah, the rest of the stint being quite a long stint on a track that I'm not majorly comfortable on. I actually think it went pretty well. My pace improved as it went on. So yeah.
Good. I'm glad to hear that it got better for you. All right. Now we're going to switch over to some spotlight questions for each of our drivers. And we'll start with Jeremiah. Jeremiah, what moment put the most pressure on you?
Honestly, it's gonna sound a bit cliche, but green flag, right? Those first couple of laps being so close to everybody, being on cold tires, not really knowing the people you're racing with because it's different from real life, right? iRacing, every event you do, it's pretty much completely new drivers, whereas in real life, typically you're driving against the same people. Um, just being very, very cautious, understanding that anything can happen in front. Like coming up Beau Rouge off the green flag, going into turn five, we had three groups going three wide into turn five, which actually ended up in a couple of accidents through five, six, and seven. And just having to keep the mental in check, keep the pressure down, and just understand that the most you can do is just react as quickly as you can. And if something does happen, mitigating the time lost if it does happen. So I think like I said, I think the first couple were definitely the most pressure.
Okay. Now, I know you're talking about the turns. Now, whenever I've watched a race, I know that the first few turns are the most important turns because that is what helps you get the pace. So, was that hard for you?
I mean, I don't want to say the first few turns were hard. I think most of it is like, yeah, just trying to kind of more see what the pace is around me. Like because the big struggle as well is off the green flag. Like assuming you get about the same run as everybody else, you're kind of just sitting there full throttle and just making sure you brake early, making sure you leave the space, but not braking so early that the next 8 cars behind you just get a free overtake, right? So it's a lot of balancing and understanding that especially being all the way back in P38, you have to break so much earlier, and just a lot of it's based on feel, right? Like you just have to trust that, I feel like these guys are going to be going pretty slow into this corner. I'm just going to trust that I'm going to break here. Hopefully the guy behind me doesn't do anything stupid, and you're essentially just sitting there hoping and praying for the first couple of laps, right? And just trying to stick with the pack and see if you can take opportunities on mistakes in front without endangering yourself and your car at the same time.
Okay. Now, looking back on that, what is your proudest moment of the race?
Proudest moment, honestly, I want to say, like, I could say the middle stints because of just the pace and the consistency, but I will just still go back to this first stint. Those first 5 to 10 laps that I was putting down, I mean, I want to say I made well over 20 positions, or roughly 20 positions, in the first 5 laps alone. And just that first section of that stint was just, I was on rails, the car was on rails, I'm in the zone, like everything was just working. Even on cold tires, that car just, there's something about that start was, in my eyes, not perfect, but definitely my best start so far. So 100%, that was my proudest moment, I think.
Okay, and that's great to hear. Now let's go over to our second racer, Bailey. Bailey, what was your biggest contribution to the race?
Ooh, probably just the night stints that I've done that I did probably helped out a bit for the less experienced drivers not being able to drive at night. Um, yeah, that's probably about it. Just being able to drive those night stints, and I'm experienced with driving at night since we did Nürburgring, and maybe the pace a little bit, and just consistency.
Okay, and now you're talking about the nights. So is the night driving your favorite driving, or is it just the best, or what you're best at?
Probably what I'm best at. Not my favorite. My favorite's definitely sunrise, as that is the fastest. But I'm definitely probably most capable at night compared to the day driving.
Okay. Now, what was your biggest challenge while you were in the car?
Coming out of the pits was definitely a challenge for me. I didn't quite get enough practice coming out of the endurance layout, so that was definitely a big challenge.
Okay. Well, I mean, at least you got to kind of see where you're at with it.
Yes, yes, exactly.
Yeah. All right, let's go to our next racer, or sorry, driver. Paul? Paul, was there a moment you thought momentum had completely swung away from the team?
I know when I came in, I started my first stint. We did have the fallback. I know Kieran had the 5 minute repair, so we had some catching up to do. I didn't try to think about that too much. I didn't want to worry about that. I just wanted to worry about staying consistent, staying on track, and holding a decent pace. Um, and that was kind of the mindset I went into there.
Okay, so keeping your pace on, making sure you kept up, make sure you, I guess, stayed in the lane, made sure you were there and were doing what you needed to stay with the team, in a sense.
Exactly. Yeah. Contribute and keep the car on track and survive my stints.
Gotcha. Now, Paul, what turned it back around? What made the race do a full 360?
I think the night stints we did a lot of good work there, a lot of great work. Caught up, made a lot of good positions. We started noticing a lot of other drivers were struggling. They were not doing as well at night, either tired or just some of the safer racers that got it into the cars and slowed down quite a bit. But I think that's where we caught up the most and got us to a competitive side of the race.
Okay, well that is good to hear. To you know to find an area where other people are were struggling a little bit and find a way to push through.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, thank you, Paul. All right. To our next driver, Kieran. Was there ever a moment where another car made you second guess an overtake?
Thinking about that, I don't think so. I think the only kind of question moment was when I had to do the avoiding action. The guy was literally sideways in the middle of the track. Didn't know which way he was moving. So yeah, I think that's the only time. As of yet, I haven't rewatched my stint, so I could be completely forgetting something. But I think that was the only moment.
Okay. Now, why that moment? I know you said you haven't really watched your stint, but why that moment? Why did that moment stick in your mind?
Um, Probably just because it could easily have gone in a bad way if the guy decided to do something silly on track or anything in order to try and turn himself around. He could have took both of us out, or if I made the wrong call and pushed in the wrong direction, then an incident could have happened in that way, being like catching too much grass, spinning, or anything like that. So yeah,
Okay, so pretty much using a careful mindset to keep yourself going.
yeah, and having to make that very like split second decision of which way you're going to go.
Well, I'm glad you kept your mind in the game. You were able to pull through that. Um, we'll move on to Will. Will, was there a point confidence, where your confidence started coming back?
100%. So my the hour two stint I done, that was early doors and in the morning for me. Um, when I got back in the car, I think it was like hour 14. Saw the progress that the lads done throughout the night stint and night shift. I pulled off not an incredible double stint or anything like that, but I was able to get back in the car. Took it 80-90% round the track, on my outlap, on fresh colds, full fuel. Um, First stint of like the first half of my double stint was a bit iffy. I think I had like one or two X. Coming back into the pits, refueling, getting new tires, and went back out for the second half and came back 0X. Just felt so much more comfortable in the car. It felt so much more stable throughout the early morning sunrise moment. It was picturesque as well. So it all felt one, with the weather, the sun coming up, the car feeling good, back in the car feeling fresh. Just everything kind of clicked again after being out of the car. So that definitely felt my confidence brought back up for sure.
Okay, now you talked about how you did you did stint 2, but you also did stint 14 and 15. So what was it like driving a single stint versus a double stint?
Oh, single stints for me, I feel like is just get the car A to B type of thing. Um, doesn't really give you, it gives you an hour in the car. I think it was like 50-ish minutes, hour in the car. So you just about get used to it by the end of your stint, and then you're bringing it in for the next guy to take over. Um, with a double stint, you kind of get the feel of the car for the first stint, and then the second part of your stint, you've already been in the car for an hour, so you know how the car's going to react on cold. You know how the car's going to react on full fuel. You know where you need to lift. You know where you need to brake. The second you get out, even on fresh tires, you know where you can put the car in a double stint. So it's definitely for me. That was my first double stint with the team, and for me, I felt so comfortable on the outlap of the second half of that double. So it shows for sure that a single stint can be good, but a double stint can be a lot more beneficial.
Okay. Now, let me also ask, what was the hardest lap you drove all race? Because you did stint 2, 14, 15, and you also did stint 22.
Yeah. I'm not even going to put it down to a single lap. I generally think the last stint, hour 22, um, not because of pressure or nerves, but I knew we gave ourselves a little margin, um, and we wanted to bring the car back for the last two stints with a decent margin on incident points. Um, I just wanted to get the car back. In some sense, I wanted to kind of do like one lap, get out the car, hand the car over. But I knew I had a task at hand, so I knew I needed to do that hour, get as much as I could out of the car for the last two stints. So I think the lap itself wasn't like the issue. I think it was the stint in some sense where it was just I needed to bring it back, and that's again not the nerves built up, but it was just that little bit of pressure, I guess, where it's just I don't want to be the mistake that happens this far on. We've done 22 hours. We've got this last little bit left, and we can finish the race in a decent position, and just a bit of everything built up. But over time, by the end of the stint, it felt a little bit better. I weren't pushing, but I knew where I was able to put the car again without getting any major incidents, and brought it back home for the next lad to get in the car and just bring it home. And it felt good getting in the car. It felt even better getting out of the car because the stress weren't on me anymore.
Okay, so you much went from the pressure of being one of the last stints to being glad you were able to get to the position you were to hand it off to the next rate or driver.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's a. I've not done any opening stints. The only thing I can kind of compare green flag racing in a 24 hours is a short race, 40-minute sprint, and it has, for me, it has a very similar effect where it's that little bit of nerves going into the race where this is the back end of it instead. Um, and in some respect, this is where the all or nothing comes in into play, where one little mistake, a touch of the grass, anything drastic, if you're pushing that little bit too much, it spins you, puts you in a wall, puts you into another car. It doesn't only wreck your race, it wrecks someone else's race. So that little bit of pressure just built up that smidge, but I was able to bring it back in one piece and hand the car over. So I felt pretty good with that last stint, even though for me it was the most a little bit of pressure that I felt.
Okay. Well, that's good. Now let's go to our last spotlight question for our last driver, David. What was the biggest thing you learned from this race?
How much consistency matters.
Can you give me an example of that?
Um, since we were more consistent or over some of the other teams, it helps us be able to catch up and come back from any races incidents that happened.
Okay. Um Now do you remember any examples of that?
After, I'm pretty sure, Paul's wreck, we went down to 48th or something like that. And then after the ninth stints, we were able to come back up to top 20. So when I got back into the car, they brought us all the way back to where we were.
That's really good. Now, another question for you, David. What was the funniest radio moment?
Um, Probably whenever there was a wreck and like the spotter, whoever was spotting, is like saying like says like get left a lot or something like that, but there wasn't many besides those.
Okay. Well, did you have one that you liked specifically?
Not really.
No? Okay. Well, at least there was some.
Yeah.
All right. Now, at the end of the race, we had two drivers to finish the last three stints, stint 22, 23, and 24 for the end of the race. Jeremiah and Will, you guys did those final three stints. How do you think the end of the race went?
Will, if you want to start off since you drove before me.
I really didn't want to. To be fair, from where we started to where we were by hour, not even 22, by hour 20, I think it just generally went really well. The last couple of hours that Jeremiah was in the car, he drained the hell out of it and um, just brought it back home for us. Like I said a minute ago, my stint was just one of them weird pressured ones. I I know I could have done better, but I know I could have also done so much more worse. Um, but I Jeremiah jump in help. It went well. I enjoyed it. I definitely think Jeremiah done a good last couple of stints as well. Again, not it's gonna sound horrible, not the best, but definitely not the worst. And with everything considering throughout the race, um, it it just felt good bringing it across the line.
Yeah, for sure. And for the double that I ended up doing after Will brought the car home, I mean, like he said, nothing crazy on that single from hour 21, but he brought it home without a scratch, got back in the car, had my second Red Bull of the day. I was prepped, I was ready, got back in the car, went back out. Didn't have any force feedback. Don't really know what the issue was there, but thankfully the issue's fixed now. So other than that, I mean, it's really, I think it was just over 2 hours of driving. We ended up having to take a bit of a splash of fuel. We just double stinted the tires at the end because by the time I got in the car, I believe we were P15, but we were fighting the two cars behind and the car in front. Kind of all four of us kind of vying for P14 at the moment. with 2 hours to go. So we were trying to really just minimize the pit time, right? Because we knew we had to take that splash of fuel within probably 20, 30 minutes of the first hour. So, my spotter just told me, he's like, look, foot to the floor, give it as much as you can without putting it in the wall for these next 2 hours because we've got to make this time back. And I did what I could, dropping mid 17s on a set of tires I ran for just over 2 hours. I was proud of that. Brought it back home. We ended up actually getting P14s. We ended up finishing in front of all three of those that we were fighting. And coming from P38, the initial overtakes, the couple of things happened early. Thankfully, they did happen early, but falling all the way back to 42nd in the first 4 hours and then bringing it back home P14, like, is it ideal? Absolutely not. But at the end of the day, it was one hell of a recovery drive. And, I told the guys after the race, I was like, look, be proud of what we've done because at the end of the day, not many teams can have an incident, not necessarily a lap one, but even in the first few hours and get their heads down for 20 hours straight and just make something happen and take a positive away from it, right? Like it's very hard to take positives away, but I think we did very well with that as well. So in the end, I mean, good result in my opinion.
Yeah, and now that you mention it, because I'm looking over it, it was you and Paul who had the most stints to drive, because you and Paul both did, I think, 5 stints during this race.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, it was definitely like it was something in the back of my head because initially Paul actually, I want to say, had 3 or 4, but after all the work he was putting in practice, pace was looking really, really strong. And being the first proper 24 he's run with us, like, he is a good driver and he was proving it in practice all week, leading up to it. And I was just like, you know what? Like, I trust him in the car. I trust my teammates. Everybody got about 4 or 5 hours in the car. And yeah, man, the night stints he did, the night stints Bailey and me did as well. The early stints that David and Kieran did. At the end of the day, like, I'm not going to sit here and say one stint or one group was better than the other, right? At the end of the day, like, the six of us were the ones that all brought it home at the end of the day. Like, so yeah.
Yeah, you guys are a really good team of drivers who help each other and back each other. Now, you guys had a really good race. So now I want to ask, and I'm going to go down the line and we'll do the same order that we did with our spotlight questions. And I wanted to ask everyone, what's one thing you'd change if we raced it again tomorrow? And Jeremiah, you can go first.
Yeah, so that's actually a really good question. If we were to essentially just do this race tomorrow, right? Like, the first thing that I can say, like, for me specifically, is just keeping my head in the game. That's at the end of the day, that's where my biggest mistakes came from over the weekend. Um, like I said, the first few laps were really, really good, those first 5 to 10. But as I started getting, just a tad impatient, mistakes did start showing through, and it was a bit of a challenge to try and dial that back as it normally is, where like you kind of get impatient with the car in front. Maybe he's defending a lot, or maybe he's slow and just is in a weird spot, or you don't really have a chance to overtake, or traffic. So many things can cause, either the mental or the focus to drop or the impatience to show. Like, so I think, yeah, just reining the mental in a little bit, just being a little bit more patient, remembering that, it is hour one of a 24-hour race. And if at the end of the day, if I put it in the wall in hour one, well, now I'm the one that's put us on the back foot. So yeah, just the patience and reining in the mental, I think.
Okay, and that's a really good answer. I mean, that can happen to anyone. All right, Bailey, what was one thing you would change if you raced it again tomorrow?
There's not a lot to add to this because Jeremiah pretty much said all I'm going to say because we're so similar. But yeah, definitely dialing it back a lot more and being a lot more patient with other drivers, with slow drivers. I got blocked a couple of times, and I got quite frustrated to be honest. So definitely dialing it back and just saving that little bit of pace for a bit later on.
Hmm. Well, like I said, it can be a challenge if you don't have your mind on the race.
Yes, definitely. Yeah.
All right, Paul, what about you? What's one thing you would change?
Almost the same as Jeremiah, for sure. My mental, but I think most of mine came from maybe the night before, not be able to sleep too long because I was just wanted to be over prepared and ready for the race. That I was just thinking about everything, every scenario, just trying to be as mentally prepared as I could to the point where I actually just ended up maybe tiring myself out a bit. I knew towards the end of my second double stint, I thought I felt good, but once I ended that and got out of the sim, oh man, I knew I needed a break and more rest. And yeah, definitely just need to learn to stay a little bit more calm, get better rest, and then roll it back a bit too when my spotter tells me to. Towards the end there, I was so tired. Even though they told me roll it back, I thought I did, and the next thing I know, I looked at my relative, and I'm still running the same lap time. So yeah, just a little bit more rest and mental ease, I guess.
Yeah, rest is important, especially because if we don't have rest, we can sometimes overthink.
Yes, yeah, exactly.
All right, next, Kieran. What would you change if we raced it again tomorrow?
Uh, yeah, probably confidence, and also rest. Just simply because obviously my stints were through the night in my area of the world. So like my first stint was at like 2 a.m. I think it was. So by that point it was already like fairly late. Um, but yeah, I agree with what everyone else has said basically.
Okay. Now, um, Will, what would you change if you raced again tomorrow?
Definitely the mental game. 100% agree with what the other lads have said, but also just the confidence in myself. If the race was the exact same, it would just I know where I need to put the car. I know what I need to do. So just the that confidence and not second guessing any of the decisions I'm making. Um, that's about it really. Everything else went pretty well.
That's good. I mean, the good thing for all of you is it seems like you overcame it. Now, to our last driver, David, what would you change if you did it again tomorrow?
For me, it would probably be driving a little bit faster since, like, I know I can, and I could probably do it while staying as clean as I did. And it probably could have helped us maybe come back a little more and gain a couple more positions. But yeah.
Okay, so, maybe putting your foot a little more on the pedal because you know you could keep the control.
Yep.
Okay. Well, that that's a wrap for our first Phoenix Evolution post-race interview. huge thanks to everyone who followed our race and supported the team throughout the event. And a huge thanks to our drivers who, well, did the race. If you enjoyed hearing the story behind the results, let us know. We'd love to make these interviews a regular part of our endurance events. We'll see you at the next one. Bye.